and welcome to this week's Wildlife Wednesday Weekly Roundup. We're celebrating the best videos of spring, summer, and fall 2020. It's been a really big year for most of us, a lot going on, but we've had some amazing views and wildlife in Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Park this summer, and we're here to celebrate that. Then, of course, we'll have our trivia question of the week. I hope everybody has their answers ready for last week's trivia question. And lastly, I'll be answering your questions live. So if you've got any wildlife biology, nature, Grand Teton, Yellowstone, Western United States oriented questions, I'm here to answer them. Go ahead and type your questions in the comment section, and we'll see if I can't get to them at the end of the broadcast. So let's start with one of my favorite moments of probably my entire life, but certainly of 2020, which is our first view of Grizzly Bear 399 this spring and her brand new quadruplets. Jackson Hole Eco Tour Adventures naturalist, guide, and owner Taylor ran into Grizzly Bear 399 and her quadruplets for the first time in May as they emerged from the den and caught us all quite by surprise. At that time, it had been thought that Grizzly Bear 399, who had been looking pretty old and worn down the fall before, might be past her cub rearing years. And so it came as kind of a surprise to all of us that she was able to not only have cubs, but to have quadruplets, the first in Grand Teton National Park's history that have been on the roadside and in view of the public. Now, grizzly bears are technically fertile their entire lives, but an old female like this, with the knowledge that she has and the ability to raise so many cubs, is certainly going to set these cubs on the right path for a bright future. So it was really an exciting, big plus, big benefit of 2020 for us to have been able to spend the summer with this wonderful, wonderful bear. So, can't get much more exciting than that. Now, guys, I have to tell you, the first time Grizzly Bear 399 showed up with her first set of triplets, which was, oh gosh, I want to say coming up on 15 years ago now, I thought that was I'd reached my peak. That was as good as it was going to get when it came to grizzly bears. A mother grizzly who I was terribly fond of even then, coming out with those triplet cubs. Then when she did it again, I thought, wow, it can't get any better than that. And then this year, when she came out with quadruplets, I'm telling you guys, I'm not sure it can get any better than that. But I can't wait to see what next spring brings. Let's see if we can't top it. In the meantime, let's continue on our journey of discovery with the best videos of 2020. We're going to take a look at Grizzly Bear 399 and those quadruplets now in August with Laura, with a brief little set-in with Grizzly Bear 610, which is 399's daughter, and her yearling cubs.
Hey everybody, this is Laura. I'm so excited to tell you about my sighting of the week up in northern Grand Teton National Park. I got a chance to see Grizzly Bear 399 interacting with her daughter, Grizzly Bear number 610, and all their cubs together. So that's 8 bears all at once in the same place. In my 10 years of guiding, this may have been my best sighting so far. Of course, Grizzly Bear 399 may be the most famous grizzly bear in Wyoming. She's 24 years of age this year, and she's given birth to likely 17 cubs throughout her lifetime. 610 is one of her older cubs. She was born 12 years ago, and she also has 2 second-year cubs of her own. For grizzly bears, they'll keep their cubs around usually for 2 to 3 years to teach them what it's like to be a bear in the wild. Recently on an episode of Wildlife Wednesday Weekly Roundup, I showed you a film of Grizzly Bear number 610 swimming in Grand Teton National Park. This time, I got to witness 399 swimming the same path. I wonder how 610 learned that behavior. I'm sure, I guarantee you, it was from her mother, $3.99. We'd been seeing these bears in the area for a few days. This time of the year, berries are really attractive for bears to consume. So a grizzly bear might be consuming between 20 to 30,000 calories per day strictly in berries. I assume that's kind of like carb loading, getting ready for winter hibernation. They just want to pack on those pounds to put on their body weight for winter. So a couple of days before, we saw $3.99 in the area. She was feasting with her cubs on berries on a hillside. Also, we knew that 610 had been in that northern Grand Teton zone for a few days, but I hadn't seen them together, and I rarely do. So I set up my Maven spotting scope. With our great gear from Maven Optics, we can safely view large predators like bears from a safe distance away. Legal minimum distance from a grizzly bear in Grand Teton National Park is 100 yards, which is a football field's length. Bear cubs are tag-alongs to their mothers for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Of course, 610, being the daughter of $3.99, was with her for 2 full years, 2 full summers in Grand Teton National Park. And these 2 female bears could be considered what we call roadside bears. We think that these bears are habituated to humans. They've seen us before. They know our behaviors well. But they have not been food conditioned. So that means we don't think that these bears are being fed illegally by humans, and they're sticking with the natural food sources provided for them. So of course a bear stays with its mom for 2 to 3 years to learn what it's like to be a wild bear out there in the woods. So biologists think that these roadside bears not only find great food sources in those areas, but also may be protecting their cubs by hanging out near humans. And I know that sounds very strange, but male bears, or we call them boars, will sometimes try to kill cubs. And yeah, that sounds really mean, very unusual, but male bears want the opportunity to mate and to spread their genetics instead of allowing the genetics of another male to live on into the future and become the later competition for him. So those male bears or boars, they don't really like us. They don't really like humans. So if the female bear and the cubs stick near the roadside, therefore they are protecting themselves from harm. Across the water on a small island, we first noticed grizzly bear 610 and those 2 second-year cubs. So those are larger size cubs. And they were rooting around in an area that I recognize has had some beaver activity in it recently. Now I don't know if they were after those beavers specifically to eat them, but it just looked like they were sniffing around, digging around in that lodge area or in that beaver home area to hopefully find a meal. And then they disappeared off into the woodwork. There's some trees just by the water's edge. They went in there, we couldn't see them anymore. And to our surprise, another bear, also with cubs, popped out from the right. She came splashing down out of the bushes, right into the water. I think those cubs were all sugared up from eating so many berries. They quickly swam across the water onto the same island that I've recently seen 610 use. They romped across, they jump back into the water and join 610 on that island. So I'm sure 610 learned these behaviors from her mother in years past. Over a summer season, grizzly bears have about 260 different food sources that they can choose from. Both male and female bears travel to different areas within their territories throughout the summer to locate different foods. And of course, they're omnivores, so that could mean eating carcasses, that could mean eating things like berries, which is really important right now. You know, we've been seeing bears on serviceberry, on huckleberry bushes, in thimbleberry patches, just going to town, munching up all the berries they can find this week. In late summer, that could also mean insects and pine nuts, which are very important food sources for bears to enjoy, as well as things like fish and root vegetables, you know, which are found, you know, throughout the year at different times. Well, for me, that was an incredible sighting. I'm so excited to have gotten a chance to share it with you. Thank you for watching, and thanks for keeping up with our wild bears of Northern Grand Teton National Park. I hope you're as excited as I am to witness this interaction. Thanks for watching. Cheers, guys.
So one of my favorite moments of this summer, now Grizzly Bear 399 and Grizzly Bear 610 were down in the northern areas of Grand Teton, down in those riparian habitats quite a bit this summer. And so we did get a lot of different views of them, but we only had really 2 or 3 times this summer where they came in close contact with each other. That one definitely was the most exciting. So for all of you 399 lovers out there, I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of a look back on her big summer. She continues to be out and about with the cubs, as does 610. In fact, 610 was quite a bit more in view this week, so we'll have more videos of her certainly next week, and a little bit more of 399. They will continue to forage in the park as long as they can find viable food sources. So as long as they can get more calories in than they're expending, they won't have that urge to hibernate. But of course, once that switches, there's a little bit of a metabolic switch that takes place. They'll go ahead and they'll set up themselves in their den, and we won't see them until next spring. So we have a lot more live viewers this week than typical. We have quite a few more. So if you're joining us from one of the other pages that we share this to every week, welcome. My name's Tenley Thompson. I'm a wildlife biologist with Jackson Hole Ecotour Adventures, and we are viewing the best of our guide videos of summer 2020. We do this Wildlife Wednesday every week. Let's check in next with Eric, who had some pretty awesome views of an incredibly rare geyser that we got to see go off quite a few times this summer.
Steamboat geyser. This is the world's tallest and largest geyser currently active. An absolutely amazing showcase of power, force, and beauty. It can reach heights of 380 feet and produce a hiss so loud a simple conversation cannot be had while viewing. After the thousands of gallons of water propelled to staggering heights, it falls back to the Earth's surface, collecting in fast-moving streams down the hill, while some, landing uphill of the geyser, flows back into the geyser itself. I was lucky enough to witness this eruption on one of our multi-day trips in Yellowstone National Park. After hearing the eruption start from over 1,000 feet away, we rushed to the base of the geyser, and after ensuring ideal views for my guests, I captured a bit of footage of the eruption and subsequent steam phase. This was my first major steamboat eruption, and it had me in goosebumps and nearly in tears from pure joy. We basked and enjoyed in every moment of the 33-minute eruption and stayed for an hour and a half of the steam phase. Magic. Steamboat is a rare geyser due to its unpredictable nature and extended periods of dormancy. Sometimes years, even decades have passed without any activity. It erupted only twice between 2008 and 2018. Twice. But for the last 3 years, we've been in an active phase with eruptions happening much more frequently. 110 times in the last 3 years. The steam phase could be seen the next day even on our return drive back to Jackson.
Awesome view from Eric. Something I've personally never seen. It's a life dream of mine to see Steamboat. I just never seem to be in Yellowstone on the right day. Big thanks also to Kirk and Kelsey, who contributed to Laura's reporting there about 399. Would be neglectful not to mention all the great guides who are contributing video each and every week here on our program. Now, I will tell you something interesting about Steamboat. The silica that's emitted by the geyser actually coats windshields and can be quite hard on glass. And so if you ever get the chance to see Steamboat, you definitely don't want to go park up right next to it, which you can get pretty close. You want to kind of park far away or you'll be scrubbing at your windshields for quite some time. Eric can probably tell you stories about that. It's not great stuff to get all over your car if you're lucky enough to get there. That's how big Steamboat is. It actually blows all the way into the parking lot. So pretty cool stuff. Really, really fun. Check in next with Kelsey, who had a really fun interaction in September between some river otters and an immature bald eagle.
Hey everyone! So a little while back I got some pretty funny footage of a group of river otters messing with a juvenile bald eagle. It's a group of 5 river otters. When otters are found in a group, it is typically the female and her offspring, so this is likely a mom and her 4 pups. And they're having a really fun time teasing this bald eagle, getting pretty close to it, backing away. Now this juvenile bald eagle is probably still learning a bit about how to fish and is just hanging out waiting to snatch a fish off of one of these otters. Now, I want to share a couple fun little tidbits about river otters with y'all. They are year-round residents here in Grand Teton. They spend their winters here right alongside their summers. And actually in the winters you can catch them sliding on the snow, and if they're efficient enough at their snow sliding, they can actually travel on land up to about 17 miles per hour. Now in the water they're much more graceful, and as swimmers they can swim up to about 7 miles an hour. They can hold their breath for up to 4 minutes at a time, and they can dive down underwater up to 65 feet. Now river otters are primarily fish eaters, and you'll see in this video that one otter does catch a fish, but it doesn't get to hold on to it for super long because the juvenile bald eagle does eventually exact its revenge and for all that teasing from the otters, and manages to snatch that fish away from the otters. Although he does come pretty close to losing it, drops it, and you can see in the video that the otters do get pretty annoyed at him for it. They're a little cranky, I just found that this was a pretty hilarious sighting that we all really, really enjoyed. Otters are not super common to see in Grand Teton National Park, on the shores of the Snake River out there, which is where we did see these guys, and it was a real treat that day.
Love those river otters. They are so much fun. For sure, Susan, I 100% agree with you. This has been really fun to look back on some of these really classic moments from 2020. Now, reminder, guys, if you've got questions about wildlife, the natural world, I will be answering those at the end of the broadcast. Now, if you're watching this from one of the pages where it's been shared to, you do have to go to the main EcoTours page, to our main broadcast. Go ahead and type your question in the comment section there, or I may not see it, so I definitely want to make sure I'm getting a chance to see everybody's questions. Also, don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Another reminder, if you're planning on visiting Grand Teton or Yellowstone in the foreseeable future and you give us a call and mention these broadcasts, we'll give you 10% off. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, okay, enough advertising. Let's get back to the fun videos for sure. You know, I didn't want to go too much into the wolves and the grizzlies on this broadcast, but come on, who doesn't love wolves and grizzlies? So let's spend a little bit more time with them, this time in the northern range with our naturalist, Josh.
Hello everyone, naturalist Josh Metton here with EcoTour Adventures. I want to share with you a recent video I got on a multi-day tour of Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. What we're seeing is what we believe a subadult wolf from the Junction Butte pack, and then 2 subadult bears from the area as well. These two grizzlies, as you can see by their size, they're pretty big, but they are not full-size bears yet, and they're hanging out together, which is an indication that these are probably siblings who recently dispersed from their mother. What's so interesting about this video is the behavior that we're seeing here. It's not aggressive. It seems to be more playful, and it's a good example of how animals in the wild play with members of their own species, but also potentially with members of other species. Why do animals play? Well, play is something that animals do because it's simply fun. It's no different than what humans do for playing, or what our pets do when they want to play with us. They enjoy it. That said, play is something that develops valuable skills that we will use later in life. As you can see from this video, we don't think this is the first time that these cubs have played with a wolf from the Junction Butte pack. This is from last summer when the cubs were still with their mother. These animals have gotten to know each other because they live in the same area, and as a result, they've been able to form relationships where they can coexist. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. For more information about our multi-day tours, please visit www.jhecotouradventures.com.
So pretty fun stuff there. Big thanks to Josh for that great video from late August. All right, you guys had enough of the wolves and grizzlies. Let's go ahead and go in a totally different direction and have a good look at Sean's video from July of an animal we definitely don't see very often. And when we do, it's an awfully big deal. But Sean put up some game cameras and found this animal. Let's check out what he found.
I got a call from my coworker Josh that he had just found an elk calf killed by a mountain lion. So I quickly grabbed a trail camera, ran to the woods, met him. We set up 2 trail cameras, left for the night, came back, and we got to see this mom cat drag the elk calf, as cats like to do, under the tree to hide it. 1 kitten in the background, 3 off screen. She has 4 kittens. That mama lion's 100 pounds. The pure power to drag that elk calf with ease, 300 pounds plus. It was pretty cool. Now I fed on it for a while. That 1 kitten was always with the mom. The other 3 were a lot more camera shy, an opportunity that I may never be able to get again. It was absolutely incredible, and it's some amazing footage.
So Sean thought he'd never get another chance to see those mountain lions again, and just in case, he set up the trail cam to see if the lions came back, and sure enough, when he went to go check his footage this week, absolutely, there they were. There's the mom and the 3 kittens. Sean believes pretty strongly that these are the same lions that he saw earlier this year. You can see there's a moose that shows up on the left-hand side of the screen that they take a pretty good look at and try to pursue. But really, some great footage of mountain lions from Sean this week. We certainly appreciate him showing us this mom and her 3 kittens. So thanks, Sean, for that. So pretty amazing views of that mountain lion and those kittens. I've definitely seen quite a few mountain lions over the years, but I've never seen any kittens. And one of these days, hopefully I run into them. You guys may have seen that viral video going around of that mother protecting her kittens. Definitely been some interesting commentary from wildlife biologists and mountain lion experts about what was going on there. So definitely recommend going to Panthera's website. Maybe Maddie can link to that article if you guys would like, or to their Twitter where they discuss a little bit more about that. Lots of people have had lots of questions about mountain lions for me recently. So definitely A lot of misconceptions about what was going on in that particular video where that mom was protecting her kittens. So pretty cool to see them in the wild at peace, so to speak. Next, let's go ahead and check in with a Jacksonville Eco Tour Adventures Guide favorite, Verlin, who always has a lot to tell us about all sorts of things. I was tempted to throw his mushroom video in here, but when it comes to just unbelievable wildlife sightings, his pronghorn fawn being born video, I think pretty much tops just about anything else that he made for us this year. So let's check that out. So Eco Tour Guide Verlin got this unbelievable footage of a pronghorn giving birth. Now pronghorn always give birth to twins, so you can see she's in labor and has already delivered her first little fawn there. And she's licking that fawn down, cleaning it up, making sure it's scentless so no predators can find it. And that little guy's trying to take his first steps. Definitely having a hard time getting up off of the ground, but this little guy definitely eventually did. You can see he's looking to try and suckle off of his mother, but can't quite figure out where the milk might be coming from. It's definitely not going to come from her neck, little guy. But these two, Verlin said, did very, very well and eventually were able to move off with their mother. So really incredible footage from Verlin there. Eco Tour Adventures Guide Josh also got some footage of a newborn pronghorn this week. And then here's the two fawns trying out some fresh green grass. Obviously, they're definitely dependent on mom's milk right now, but sampling different forage, particularly mimicking mom's behavior, is critically important to learn in the long term how to feed yourself. You can see these guys are still pretty wobbly. Josh reports that both of the fawns seem to be doing really well and were able to walk off with mom, as we'll see at the end of this video here. So thanks very much to Eco Tour Adventures Guide Josh for that really phenomenal footage that he took this week of that little pronghorn fawn. So pretty awesome to see that pronghorn being born from early June, right when we were getting our broadcast started, late May, early June. So big thanks to Verlin for contributing that one. Now, I had a lot to choose from when it came to our guide Mark, who you may recall this summer was following quite a few different nests of baby birds. But I think one of my favorite videos that he submitted to us this year was this great view of some baby bears.
Earlier this week, we were out in Grand Teton National Park watching a very healthy looking black bear that had 3 tiny little cubs of the year with her. And as this female was foraging, all of a sudden, all 3 cubs decided that they wanted to climb a lodgepole pine. And as these little ones started up the tree, it was one of the cutest things you've ever seen. All 3 of them kept climbing to the very top of the tree. And by the time they made it to the top, they were 45 to 50 feet off the ground, which is incredibly impressive. Now, black bears do have specially adapted claws that are geared towards their ability to climb. And you can see that from a very young age, these tiny little cubs are able to navigate to some incredible heights. Now, not only did these tiny little cubs make it to the top of this lodgepole pine, once they made it to the top, they started getting themselves quite comfortable, and they started literally taking naps on top of each other. It was really, really a special moment to capture. And these things are just cute as can be. Little teddy bears climbing up the side of this lodgepole pine is something else to see.
Pretty cute stuff for sure. Thanks so much to Mark for that great video. All right, guys, we're just churning through these. We've got one more for you before we get to our trivia question of the week, which is a really fun one from Kirk, which was early spring, looking at some foxes in their den.
Hey guys, really fun checking out this fox den here. It's a great time of year to find fox because they'll be active throughout the day when a mother, a vixen, is looking to support 5 pups like this. But typically they could be nocturnal or crepuscular, meaning only active in the early mornings or the later evenings. So it's pretty fun to watch a den like this right now. But fox, they might be in your own backyard denning. They live all over the place. They're the most widely distributed terrestrial meat eater in the world. So they're great generalists. They could eat a lot of different things and live in a lot of different places. But right now here in Jackson, checking out this den, we see 5 pups. We see the vixen, the mother, but we don't see the dog presently. That would be the father. And the dog usually is around throughout the summertime, helping to raise those pups, especially going out finding food to help support that mother, support the pups. But we don't see him right now. I think that these pups might be maybe 6 weeks old, maybe even a little bit older, because they're engaging in a lot of mock fights, a lot of playful activity, mock hunting. And it's all that sort of playful activity that's going to help them hone their skills, because come summertime they're going to be joining their mother on hunts, and by August it'll be time for them to disperse and go off on their own. But for now, it's really fun to watch these fox hanging around with mom at the den site.
Nothing quite as cute as baby foxes are. Pretty fun stuff. All right, guys, remember to like and share our broadcast if you're enjoying it. We'd love to spread the reach of what we're doing. Certainly offer these as a free public service. And speaking of that, we've got a big giveaway in the works. So if you'd like to participate, pretty cool stuff. We are actually giving away a pair of our Maven binoculars. And if you want to enter to win, it's actually really easy. If you're watching this broadcast, you've already done most of these things. This is about a $325 value. They're 8x42 binoculars made by Maven Optics, a local company. All you got to do, and Maddie's going to put up the link for this, is you've got to subscribe to our newsletter. And then, of course, if you follow us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, we will randomly select a winner on or around November 6th, and you get 1 entry per person per platform. So you 2 chances to enter, once on Facebook, once on Instagram. So once again, to enter to win these binoculars, super easy. Subscribe to our newsletter, which is super fun, full of biological information. We're certainly not advertising at you. All sorts of videos, all sorts of great information about the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Go ahead and visit Facebook and Instagram and make sure you like us, and we'll go ahead and see if one of you will have that opportunity to win. So pretty cool stuff. I'm in love with those binoculars. I've worked with so many binoculars over the years. I've worked with the most expensive binoculars in the world, and I'll tell you what, these Mavens measure up against those. They're really, really great optics. We use them out on all of our trips. So if you're interested in having a pair of your very own, pretty easy stuff for a pretty big reward. So feel free to do that if interested. Let me know in the comment section if you guys have any questions on that. Maddie was good enough to put up a link on our main Eco Tour page on this broadcast that makes it really easy to follow. So pretty cool. All right, so trivia question. What'd you guys think of last week's trivia question? Too easy? Too hard? How'd I do? A lot of folks gave me a lot of answers, and a lot of them were wrong. And usually you guys are all too smart for me, so I'm feeling like maybe we finally have hit the best of both worlds. All right, so the way this is going to work, guys, is the winner of our trivia question of the week is going to get a chance to win a $10 gift card to our Eco Tour store. And we started this during the first wave of COVID. Back in March, when we had to shut down our programming to keep everybody safe, we wanted to make sure we could pay for employee health insurance. So if you're curious, Maddie will put up a link to our Eco Tour Adventure store. Go ahead and check it out. The face masks on there. There's some really fun owl face masks that I'm really digging. Some bear face masks are pretty cool, as well as hand knit hats. Things that the guides have made and other folks have donated to go ahead and fund our health insurance. So if you'd like to help us out, definitely check it out. We've got some fun things. If you want a print of Grand Prismatic or some mugs or some steelware, definitely worth a look. The way this is going to work is I'm going to talk about last week's trivia question, which we already have a winner for, and then we're going to talk about this week's trivia question. And all you have to do is answer in the comments section, and you have to answer in the main Eco Tour Adventures post. You can't do it on one of the ones we've shared for your chance to win. So you got to go to the Eco Tours page, go to this link to this video you're watching right now, and comment in the comment section if you know the answer. So this week's question is going to be in just a minute, but let's go to last week's, which was name me the 4 animals in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem that turn white in the winter. So they're not white in the summer, but they turn white in the winter. Now I'm going to tell you, first off, a lot of people said foxes. And you're right, Arctic foxes turn white in the winter and they're brown in the summer. But we don't have Arctic foxes here. We have red foxes here. And so that is not one of the correct answers. By far and away, the second most common answer we got was ermine. And guess what, guys? That is correct. Ermine do change color. However, that's not the technical name. Now, I'm going to give it to everybody who said ermine. They're technically short-tailed weasels. And you're right. They are, in fact, brown in the summer and white in the winter, what people oftentimes call an ermine. I think a lot of people don't know that this is the same animal as this. That is a short-tailed weasel. Okay, so that's one. The second one, if you know that one, you might know the second one. For all of you guys know that I love to talk about the weasels on this broadcast. We have more weasels here than anywhere else on the planet. The long-tailed weasel changes color. So they are brown in the summer and they are white in the winter. Now, for all of you guys wondering, how the heck do I tell the difference between a long-tailed weasel and a short-tailed weasel? It's in the name. Pretty easy. If the length of the tail is bigger than the length of the body, it's a long-tailed weasel. If it is shorter, it's a short-tailed weasel. So all you gotta do is look at the tail, look at the body, and if it's the same length or equal, like you see with this long-tailed weasel, then you know you've got a long tail. And if it is shorter, I don't know if we can see the tail on here, but the very fact we can't see the tail means it is a short-tailed weasel. So for future reference, if you try and tell the difference, if it's got a short tail with a little black tip on its tail, it's probably an ermine or a short-tailed weasel. Long-tail weasel. It's in the name, right? All right. Anybody got anything for the third species? There's 4 in total. How about the snowshoe hare? Snowshoe hare, of course, are brown in the summer and turn white in the winter. So for those of you guys who said rabbit, I didn't accept rabbit, and I'll explain why in just a minute. But if you said snowshoe, I did, because of course they are brown and white. Now, we don't see tons of lagomorphs, rabbit members of the rabbit family here in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, but we do see these guys, particularly in Grand Teton on occasion. Okay, the last one, I figured I'd stump some of you guys. There was a chance that you weren't gonna know. Anybody recognize this guy? This is the white-tailed jackrabbit. And sure enough, they turn white in the winter. Now, this is an animal we definitely don't see very often, more commonly in Yellowstone than in Grand Teton, but it does technically live here. So, to clear up our 4 animals here, we've got the short-tailed weasel, the long-tailed weasel, the snowshoe hare, and the white-tailed jackrabbit. If you got any of those 4, you were entered to win. If you got all 4, which I don't know if anybody did. First of all, I'm really, really impressed. I had to struggle to come up with those 4 off the top of my head. After Sarah Ernst asked me that question, I had to really work at it. It was not simple. And secondly, you want to come work for us? Because honestly, that's really amazing. So for those of you guys who got at least one of those 4 correct last week, congratulations, well done. Now, of course, there is this week's question. So if you think you know the answer to this week's question, go ahead and answer in the comment section. Once again, particularly for you, Don and Susan, I've made this a little bit more difficult if I can. Folks love to see my x-rays of skulls, so I thought we'd do another one. Name this species. I don't want the family group. I want the actual animal. And the only hints I'm going to give you are I want you to look at the teeth. And the teeth are going to give it away. And I want you to look at the length of the nose, which is going to give it away. So if you look at the teeth, that's going to tell you whether it's a carnivore or an herbivore or an omnivore. And then if you look at the length of the nose, that's going to tell you what kind of that thing it is. And you should be able to make a pretty good guess there. So remember, carnivores have pointy teeth, herbivores have molar teeth, and omnivores have both. So go ahead and think about that one. Give me an answer in the comment section if you think you know the answer of what skull that is there. I know everybody's been enjoying my skulls. I guess another hint would be I've already shown you a mountain lion skull. So we know it's not a mountain lion because we've already done that as our trivia question. But other than that, Don always says I'm giving too many hints and I'm giving it away. So I'm not going to give it away any further than that. We'll see who gets that one right. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section and you'll get your chance to win this week. So pretty fun stuff. All right, guys, now we're coming to my favorite part of the broadcast, which is I'm here to answer your questions live. So if you have a wildlife biology, naturalist, Western United States, botany, whatever kind of question, nature question you want to ask me, I'm here to answer it. You do want to comment in the comment section on our main broadcast. So if you're watching this on a page where it's been shared, you want to go to the main broadcast and comment in that comment section, or I may not see your comments. Now bear with me, I'm going to be looking down, and it's because I've got my iPad here so that I can see what your questions are, and we'll go ahead and we'll see if we can't get you guys some answers. So let's hear, lots of good guesses coming in. I like it. Let's see what we've got this week. All right. So Lori is asking, could you please direct me to the site you referred to regarding the experts discussing the cougar viral video? Hopefully Maddie, who I kind of put on the spot there, will be able to do that. Maddie, I think I found Mark Elbrock gave a really well-reasoned biological response to what was going on with that viral cougar video, as well as Panthera, which is a nonprofit dedicated to big cats. Both of them are great. So hopefully Maddie will get us a comment up in the comment section for you guys, and I'll go ahead and I'll post that one in a second. So thank you for that question. Very, very fascinating what those mountain lion experts have to say. Definitely not what a lot of people are thinking. That mountain lion is definitely not stalking that gentleman who's backing away from her. She's definitely protecting her kittens. She's making bluff charges. She actually has no intention of making an aggressive attack. And there's all sorts of things they're talking about behaviorally about how that is not an example of stalking by a mountain lion. So pretty interesting stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Gonna go back up to the top. Hey everyone, I was wondering how many feet of snow can parts of Wyoming get if there's a major snowstorm? How bad can they get? All right, thanks April. That's a great question. So different areas of Wyoming are definitely going to get different levels of snow. But here in the Jackson Hole Valley, we are definitely known for our deep terrain, particularly when we come skiing, all that fresh powder snow. It depends on where in the valley you're at. So if you're down near the town of Jackson, we average just about 70 inches of snow per year because most of the snow gets trapped by the mountains and falls on the mountains themselves. So by the time it gets to the valley floor, particularly the southern end of the valley floor, it's actually not bad at all. But by the time you get to the boundary line of Yellowstone, you're looking at over 1,000 inches of snow per year. That's well over 50 feet of snow. Pretty crazy stuff. Unbelievable snow depths. It makes you begin to understand why something like an elk coming out of Yellowstone has to migrate down to the National Elk Refuge or die. And about 25% of the herd that migrates to the National Elk Refuge historically came from Yellowstone National Park. They are migrating all the way down because that's the only place they can effectively dig under the snow and find food. National Elk Refuge right next to the town of Jackson. So going from that 1,000 inches of snow to 70 inches of snow. So it really just depends on where you are in our valley. It's a very small distance with a big difference in the amount of snowfall. Of course, up in the mountains, at the Jackson Hole Mountain Resort and other places, certainly 500 to 800 inches of snow is not unusual of skiable terrain. So lots of different snow depths for you, but hopefully we can answer that question. That's a great one. Ooh, nice gory one. Pamela asks, Laura mentioned that boars, that would be male bears, eat young bears from another boar, so would it leave its offspring alone? Pamela, no. So male bears will kill any cub they can find, but female bears are usually smart enough to keep those little bear cubs away from boars, particularly the boar who occupies the territory who they've bred with. What that basically means in short speak is usually the fathers don't kill their own young. It can happen, but it's very, very unusual. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a very good evolutionary technique. Now, the other thing to ask is, why are male bears killing grizzly cubs? Why are they engaging in this act? And it's a little hard to understand, but the short version of it is, I don't know if you've ever heard about how African lions, when a new male takes over a pride of lions, it immediately kills all the cubs in that pride, which is like, oh my gosh, pretty brutal, right? But if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint in terms of what's in the best interest of that male lion, the shorthand of evolution is whoever has the most offspring, who have the most offspring wins, right? So if that male lion is protecting another male lion's offspring, he's only going to be on top. He's going to only be in charge of that pride for a short period of time, which means he's only going to have the breeding rights of the females for a short period of time. So if he immediately goes in there and kills all of the cubs, then those females will no longer be nursing, which means they'll come into season and heat sooner, which means he'll have the opportunity to breed them, which means they'll have his cubs sooner while he's still in charge, and that gives them a better chance to reach adulthood. So it sounds really, really brutal, but it depends on how you're thinking about it. And if you're thinking about it, what's in the best interest of that male lion, kind of makes more sense. Okay, so the only difference between grizzly bears and African lions, of course, African lions live in family groups and grizzly bears don't. And so we're seeing the same behavior, but it's the male bear is not hanging out with the female bear and the cubs. And so occasionally, yes, a father can kill its own offspring, but it's really, really rare. Ecologically and evolutionarily, it works well for the species to do it that way. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see here. Dawn, you've also got a question that, don't worry about it being morbid. Everybody's asking me this right now. You're not the only one wondering. She looks really good, and I'm not as concerned as maybe I would have been before. But his question is, should 399 die in the den due to her age? Could those 4 cubs survive or expire as well? The thing is, those cubs are now eating enough food on their own, and they know enough from what she's taught them with 1 year under their wing, what will be 1 year after they hibernate, that they could survive on their own. Absolutely. They could definitely make it, and there are plenty of grizzly cubs who do survive after only 1 year with their mother instead of the 2 years, which is more typical. So certainly possible, but do of course consider that grizzly bear mortality of cubs is quite high. And so I do want everybody to be prepared that we might not have 4 quadruplets in the spring. But of course I said that back when 399 had triplets, and the triplets always managed to survive. So just goes to show you that she's a special bear. And if she can make 3 cubs make it all the way to adulthood twice, she can probably do it with 4 cubs as well. So great question. April, this is a good one. Would the animals migrate if Yellowstone was to erupt? Hopefully that would never happen, but just concerned about it. So really, really interesting question. So the short version is, if it was a minor eruption, absolutely. So all of these animals are incredibly adapted to wildfire, and they've evolved with wildfire in their history, and they have the instincts and adaptations to adjust well. Wildfire kills very, very few animals when it swipes through an area. The Great Fires of Yellowstone in 1988, they found surprisingly few large animals. Some of the only animals that died during those great wildfires, which burned a huge portion of Yellowstone, were birds in the nest who hadn't fledged and so couldn't fly away, and some small mammals who traditionally have an instinct to burrow underneath the fire. And that particular fire was just so hot, it actually scorched the soil more than a typical forest fire. So the strategy would have worked, except for those fires in '88 were so severe that in that case it didn't. But generally speaking, they found very few medium or large to size mammals. So the idea is, on a minor eruption of Yellowstone, let's just say oozing magma flow kind of an eruption, they would be able to migrate. They do okay. But let's sort of be clear, Yellowstone historically, when it erupts, isn't going to be oozing, right? It's going to have a far more severe eruption. We've definitely had historical eruptions of Yellowstone that have certainly wiped out half of all life in the United States, for instance. We like to joke that if Yellowstone were to go off, we in Jackson have enough time to make the pose we're going to be buried in, like the Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius. I have just enough time to maybe go for a few people to unbury me in, but not much more time than that. I probably won't know what hit me. The reality of the situation is we have absolutely no indication of any activity coming from Yellowstone's dormant volcano, not extinct, but dormant, that would suggest any kind of concerning eruption pending behavior. And what that basically means is most geologists figure that if Yellowstone was going to erupt, that we would have years, maybe even decades, maybe even centuries of increased geothermal activity. All the geysers and thermal features would go nuts long before the pressure would build high enough from that caldera, from that magma chamber underneath Yellowstone to actually erupt. So a major eruption, doesn't matter whether you migrate or not, doesn't really matter if you live in California or New York, we're all kind of in trouble. That doesn't seem like anything we need to be concerned about. Minor eruption, absolutely. They'd be able to migrate away from sort of a traditional volcano situation, as long as they weren't right up next to where the eruption occurred. So great question. Linda asks, are these the same species of otters that live in Illinois and Wisconsin? Yes, they are exactly the same species. We have two species of otter here in the United States. We have sea otters and river otters. These are the river otters, same kind. Awesome. All right, I've heard that one of 399's cubs is limping. Do you have any idea why? I had heard that one of 399's cubs was limping. Certainly seen video of it limping. I haven't seen it in person myself. Always seems to be in deep grass every time I see her. I heard that the limping has gotten better. Grizzly cubs are constantly scampering and wrestling and doing things they've never done before, going up and down steep slopes and the like. It's not uncommon for them to pull muscles or ligaments and what have you, sprain things. Not a rare thing at all. The fact that it seems to be resolving means it's probably not a very major concern. So yeah, we don't know the cause, but it's a bear cub. They get themselves in so much trouble, I don't even know where to start. How many mountain lions in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem? Matty already sort of answered some of this. He said 18 to 24 in Yellowstone, which is the last research I saw as well. I've heard numbers as high as 50 in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem as a whole. Particularly the Grovant Range is great mountain lion habitat. So we do have a slightly stronger density than other areas of the country. So still not very many cats when you think about it, but we definitely have more than 50. So great question there. Let's see here. What else we got? Did I pass my wilderness first responder certification today? Maddie asks. So for those of you guys who aren't aware, I am recertifying, or I let it lapse, so I have to take the cat course again to become a wilderness first responder. Test is on Friday, so wish me luck. But gosh forbid, if I'm ever hiking in the backcountry and I come in contact with you, hopefully I'll know the essential skills to keep you safe and get you out of there is the idea. So yeah, I have not passed yet. I will find out on Friday if I pass my practical exam. But thank you very much for that, Maddie. That's pretty funny. Let's see here. What else we got? Oh, some correct answers on trivia. Let's see here. Stephanie asks, my parents are trying to relocate otters out of the pond due to them eating their catfish. They say they eat 3+ pounds of fish daily. Is that accurate? I don't know how many pounds of fish they eat daily. That's a great question. Maybe Maddie can look that up for us real quick and see if he can find out the answer. That's a really, really good question. I'm not sure. Your local game and fish agency might be able to assist you a little bit with that project. Relocating river otters is really hard. They're super smart animals. I certainly understand the concerns that you guys are having. That's a tough situation for sure. And relocation can be a little hard on them as well. But yeah, I don't know how many pounds of fish they eat. That's a great question. Let's see here. Oh, here's the link. You can click on it in the comments section from a renowned worldwide, very famous mountain lion biologist, talking all about what's going on in that viral video that we keep talking about. So great. Thank you very much for that, Maddie. How often can the northern lights be seen in Yellowstone? more often than you'd think. So it depends on a couple factors. The sun goes through solar minimums and maximums. Every 20 years, we go through a cycle. When it's at a maximum, we certainly have more mass coronal ejections, which really excite the ionosphere, and that is definitely what's going to create our northern lights opportunities. Right now, we're kind of in the middle of the cycle, so that means that it's not as likely that you're going to see northern lights as at a maximum. We definitely are a dark sky reserve. We have some of the darkest skies in the United States, so if you are going to see it in the US, this is a place you can see them. There's a couple ways to figure out during your visit, if you're here in Yellowstone or if you live here, if there's an opportunity for northern lights. If you go to the NOAA Solar Observatory page, they actually will make predictions on the level of activity from the sun, which will help them do a northern lights prediction. There's actually a little chart on there that'll tell you how likely you are to have northern lights at your location. I will tell you that it's done by a range called KP. Generally speaking, we need to have higher than a KP6, preferably a KP7, to see the northern lights here in Grand Teton and Yellowstone. If you live at more northern latitudes than we do, up in Montana or Minnesota, you might be able to see northern lights at a KP5 or 6. And then, of course, up into Canada, KP4 and 3. If you want to see northern lights south of us, boy, that'd have to be a pretty big solar storm. You'd want to be at like KP8. At KP10, by the way, you can see them on the equator. KP9, you can see them in Florida. We certainly haven't had any major solar events like that since the 1930s. I've asked Maddie maybe if he can find that link. That might be a little tough, but you're looking for the NOAA, NOAA Solar Observatory, and then you're looking for the Northern Lights predictor. And they actually put out a great predictor every day. It's really cool. We've got this amazing European Space Agency satellite orbiting around the sun, which is enabling us to really monitor these solar storms and have a better idea of when the northern lights are going to hit us. So great question. Let's see here. Have all the grizzly bears been numbered in the way we've come to know 399 and 610? No, not even a small number of them. There are some of them that get numbers as part of their research. Grizzly bear 399 certainly got her number that way. There are some that get their numbers because they are the offspring of bears that are roadside bears and therefore have a higher likelihood of coming into contact and conflict with humans. That's how grizzly bear 610 got her number. And then there are many bears that are in the backcountry that we have very little experience or knowledge about and certainly don't have any research on. So great question. Not even a tenth of all the bears have research numbers. Let's see here. We're putting Maddie to the test with all these links today. Do we feel earthquakes in Grand Teton? On occasion, we do. We have the second most active fault in the United States after San Andreas, the Teton Fault, and we can have up to several earthquakes a day between here and Yellowstone National Park. Pretty rare to feel them, usually in the 5.0, 4.0 range. Pretty rare for it to be higher than that. Might shake some things on shelves a couple times a year, but nothing more serious. But yes, we certainly do. If I really want to put Maddie to the test, I'm a poor guy. I'm telling him to find all these links. There is actually really cool. The U.S. Geological Survey Yellowstone Observatory has a great monitor of earthquakes between Grand Teton and Yellowstone, and you can see all the recent ones there, as well as seismographs live. When Steamboat goes off, it actually sets off a seismograph, and that's one of the ways we actually know Steamboat has erupted even in the middle of the night. So pretty cool. It sets off their earthquake detectors. All right, let's see here. Oh, lots of good looks on my woofer. Wilderness first responder, that's woofer. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. That's so sweet. Where can I purchase a picture like the one hanging behind you? Well, that's my photo, and we have it for sale on our EcoTour Adventures store site. So if you'd like that one in specific, you can buy it and help fund our health insurance, and we sure would appreciate it. That one was taken by helicopter, so a little more unusual. You got to have all the right permits to do that. So yeah, there's that question. Maybe Matt will put that store link up again. Oh, Maddie got our answer. An adult otter can eat up to 2 to 3 pounds of fish per day. Insects and small amphibians are also consumed. So there you go. 2 to 3 pounds of fish per day. All right. I think that's all our questions this week. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. A big thanks from the Travel and Tourism Board who's helping to fund this program. Don't forget to stay up to date with jhcovid.com if you plan on visiting the area. It's been such a pleasure spending this day with you guys. I hope you all have a wild weekend. Stay safe. Have a great time. Stay curious. See you later. Bye-bye.